Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Supremely Enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu. We pay homage to the Blessed One, Supremely Enlightened Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu. We pay homage to our teacher, Swami Mahāsuññatasutta. Sadhu, sadhu. You know how to read suttas, right? Even recently, somebody new to this path called me and asked where to find suttas and how to read them. So then I guided to read suttas here. You go to, there are few sources, but this one is suttacentral.net. Suttacentral.net. And then you go here. You can see Sutta Pitaka, Vinaya Pitaka, Abhidhamma Pitaka. So these are the three baskets in the Dhamma. So we go here to discourse, read the discourses, original discourses of the Buddha, English translations. Basket of discourses, Sutta Pitaka. Click here, and then you get these different collections. Collections of long discourses, which is Digha Nikaya. Collection of middle discourses, which is Majjhima Nikaya. Collection of linked discourses, which is Samyutta Nikaya. Collections of numbered discourses, which is Anguttara Nikaya. Collection of minor discourses, which is Khuddaka Nikaya. So basically these ones. You can click on any of these collections and start reading. So anywhere you like to read. Also, we have a thing called readingfaithfully.org. So here you type reading faithfully. .org, and you go to this website. You can see here this new daily readingfaithfully.org, and you can sign up. You can just put the email here, and you will receive an original discourse of the Buddha every day, one sutta per day, to your inbox. So that sutta comes as one of 30 suttas on a specific topic. So, for example, this month topic is virtue, sila, or precepts. So you can read 30 discourses, original discourses about sila. So in a different month, the topic would be meditation. So you can read 30 discourses, original discourses on meditation. In a different month, the topic would be the awakened one, the Buddha. And you will get to read 30 discourses about the life of the Buddha. So like that, different topic each month. So we go back to our sutta collection. Today we are going to select a sutta from the collections of middle discourses. We click here and then these are different sub-chapters. You can select any of those. And I'm selecting this one. I'm selecting the chapter beginning with emptiness. There I select the second sutta, the longer discourse on emptiness, Mahāsuññatasutta. Did you learn that recently? No? So if you only want to read English translation, just click on plain. First you go to views here and then click on plain. If you need both English and Pali, which is Buddha's language, you click on side by side and click views again. So now we have the English translation.
So I have heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying in the land of the Sakyans near Kapilavatthu in the Banyan Tree Monastery. Then the Buddha woke up in the morning and, taking his bow and rope, entered Kapilavatthu for alms. He wandered for alms in Kapilavatthu. After the meal, on his return from alms round, he went to the dwelling of Kalakemaka, the Sakyan, for the day's meditation. Now at that time, many resting places had been spread out at Kalakemaka's dwelling. The Buddha saw this and wondered. Many resting places have been spread out. Are there many mendicants living here?
Mendicants means?
Monks. Now at that time, Venerable Ananda, together with many other mendicants, was making ropes in Gata, the Sakyan's dwelling. Then in the late afternoon, the Buddha came out of retreat and went to Gata's dwelling, where he sat on the seat spread out and said to Venerable Ananda, many resting places have been spread out at Kalakemaka's dwelling. Are many mendicants living there? Indeed, there are, sir. It's currently the time for making ropes.
So what is happening here? Buddha noticed that there were lots of like mattresses or mats were spread out, and there were many robes there, bowls, and other the requisites of the monks. So then Buddha noticed there were a group of monks staying here. So then Buddha asked, why so many monks living in this one place? And then the chief attendant of the Buddha, Venerable Ananda Thero, answered, yes, Bhante, there are so many monks here because this is the robe making season. That means for 3 months they spent the rains retreat. That means without traveling anywhere. Otherwise, they would travel from village to village, city to city, province to province, all over India, practicing their path and also meeting with new people, sharing the teachings with them. But for this rainy season, 3 months period, they would not travel like that. They would stay in one place. And at the end of the 3 months rains retreat, they would repair their robes. Because for 8 months, when they continuously do their wandering, traveling, with only 3 robes, with their outer robe, inner robe, and the double robe. So it is the time to make some repairs for the robes. So they use needles and strings, and they together help each other to repair their robes. They have 1 month to do that. After that, they will set off again for traveling, wandering miles and miles. But Buddha noticed sometimes when you are not mindful, when there is a big group like that working together, it's very easy for you to forget the goal of your spiritual path. So you get to chat with each other, you share things with others, your stories and what you saw in this village, in that village, what you experienced here and there. So kind of big noise. Buddha didn't like that. Buddha always appreciated silence. Because when the mind is calm and peaceful, then the practitioners get an opportunity to investigate the true nature of this life. It doesn't happen when the environment is very busy, noisy, crowded. That's why Buddha appreciated forests, empty huts, meditation centers, going to retreats. Buddha encouraged people to associate with these calm and quiet places. You can see that how Buddha responses.
Ananda, a mendicant doesn't shine who enjoys company and groups, who loves them and likes to enjoy them. It's quite impossible that such a mendicant will get the pleasure of renunciation, the pleasure of seclusion, the pleasure of peace, the pleasure of awakening when they want, without trouble or difficulty. But you should expect that a mendicant who lives alone, withdrawn from the group, will get the pleasure of renunciation, the pleasure of seclusion, the pleasure of peace, the pleasure of awakening when they want, without trouble or difficulty. That is possible. Indeed, Ananda, it is quite impossible that a mendicant who enjoys company will enter and remain in the freedom of heart. Either that which is temporary and pleasant, or that which is irreversible and unshakable. But it is possible that a mendicant who lives alone, withdrawn from the group, will enter and remain in the freedom of heart. Either that which is temporary and pleasant, or that which is irreversible and unshakable.
Okay, so that was the response of the Buddha. Those who enjoy company and groups, who love company, who like to enjoy company and groups, entertainment, dancing, singing, right, will be the outcome. Lots of gossip, these things will be the outcome in most of the cases. So in that case, you experience a base kind of happiness and pleasure. That is called inferior happiness, inferior pleasure. And that is not appreciated by the Buddha. Because for the most part, that pleasure, that law-based pleasure, is based on the sense objects. That inferior pleasure comes through visual objects, sounds, smells, tastes, and tangibles. So that does not help people to enjoy the pleasure of renunciation, as Buddha explains here, the pleasure of seclusion, the pleasure of peace, the pleasure of awakening. That is powerful, right? When we are engaged in such an inferior happiness, we lose this opportunity to experience a higher kind of happiness, advanced happiness. What is the advanced happiness? Pleasure of renunciation. What is that in Pali? Pleasure of renunciation, nekkhamma sukha. Right? That one misses experiencing the nekkhamma sukha, the pleasure of renunciation. That means pleasure of detachment, pleasure of detachment, pleasure of understanding the true nature of things. An advanced pleasure comes by understanding the true nature of life, by understanding the bliss of detachment. And paviveka sukha, they miss the opportunity to experience the pleasure of seclusion. When you cultivate these wholesome qualities in life, you experience a different kind of happiness, which is called the pleasure of seclusion. And then upasama sukha, also you experience the pleasure of peace, inner peace, right? When the mind is not troubled by those material, temporary happiness, those inferior happiness, you get to experience this true happiness, inner peace. Sambodhi sukha. There is this advanced kind of happiness, the pleasure of awakening, right? So that is what you are going to miss when you are in such an noisy environment, crowded environment, right? When you enjoy company and groups, you will miss this happiness. And then you are left alone with this unsatisfactoriness or sometimes stress, with depression, because you didn't get the opportunity to experience this advanced kind of happiness, right? And then Buddha teaches, but if you live this life withdrawn from the groups and you appreciate, you rejoice in the seclusion, then you get to experience this advanced kind of happiness. Buddha teaches you get the pleasure of renunciation, the pleasure of seclusion, the pleasure of peace, the pleasure of awakening when you want without trouble or difficulty. It is possible for you to experience that kind of happiness. So nowadays, why you see many people are like stressed out, like experiencing unsatisfactoriness in life. Many people are disappointed with their dreams or goals or whatever, is because they didn't know this advanced kind of happiness and they didn't know the path how to achieve that. So they only have the access to this inferior kind of happiness, but it is followed by lots of pain, right? Because definitely money is involved in that happiness, but that kind of inferior happiness does not guarantee the lasting peace. That's what has happened to this world. And the ordinary, the world doesn't understand that this sensory happiness is not the only source of happiness. It is just the beginning. there are so many other sources of happiness, and they are necessarily the true happiness.
Or reputation thing, someone who will desire to last for it. But the realized one woke up this meditation, namely to enter and remain in emptiness internally by not focusing on any signs. Now suppose that while the realized one is practicing this meditation, monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, rulers and their ministers, monastics of other religions, and their disciples go to visit him. In that case, with a mind slanting, stupid, and inclining to seclusion, withdrawn, and loving renunciation, he invariably gives each of them a talk emphasizing the topic of his rebirth.
So now Buddha saw how happy the monks were with their friends. Maybe they saw those friends after many months after ending the rain retreat, right? And now they got to see each other and talking about many things, so happy. But Buddha knew the truth. What is the truth? Ananda, I do not see even a single sight which, with its decay and perishing, would not give rise to sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress in someone who has desire and lust for it. So when you have desire for your friends, right? When you like to have then that means there is an attachment there, right? So you like to see them more often, and you like to chat with them, and even unknowingly you build this attachment. This attachment is built inside you. When you keep meeting somebody, when you keep talking to somebody, if you are not mindful of the purpose, let's say, it can happen to anybody. So when this bond, when this attachment is built, one thing is to be expected. When you are separated from loved ones, that's the meaning here, decay and perishing. When you are separated from your loved ones, that means they go somewhere else, they go to live in far away place, different country, or they get sick, or they die. What is the result? Outcome. Then you cannot bear that because of your desire, because of the attachment, and you start crying. You are lamenting, lots of pain inside you, sadness inside you. See that suffering and the cause of suffering is right there. And people don't understand this. When they suffer, they say, I don't want to suffer. And then sometimes this pain is unbearable. They completely lose mindfulness. They go crazy. And then they are so stressed sometimes. They are depressed. One reason for a person's depression can be this separation from loved ones, right? And Buddha very clearly mentions that in this world, Buddha don't see even a single visual object. When we have desire and lust for greediness for that, attachment for that, when it changes, if we don't get upset, if we don't feel sad, Buddha don't see even a single visual object like that. If there is a single visual object, if there is something you see with your eyes, when it changes, when it fall apart, sadness, suffering would not arise, then we all can look at that and enjoy that, get attached to that. But you cannot find even a single object in this world. So now think about our life. Where is our life going? We collect so many things, objects, we buy so many things. And even though we don't know, there is a bond there. That is why what happens if somebody steals our clothing, our vehicle, our ornaments? We get upset, right? We are sad. And then we start getting angry at this new person we didn't even know before. Right? Now a new problem. That is how our life continues. We add layers and layers of anger, hatred, greediness, and all these causes and sources of suffering. And then we question, why doesn't my suffering end? Why so much suffering in my life? Where is the end? We are the same people who created this suffering for ourselves. And think about the attachment and bond that is developed in our life when we have, husbands, wives, children, grandchildren, brothers, sisters. That is the source of suffering. But there is a way to live with the family members, live with parents, live with the kids, live with the friends, without developing that bond, without developing that attachment. To experience that, you need to follow the spiritual path. There's no any other way to do that. For example, you can read Mahāsuññatasutta. Mahāsuññatasutta. You can see very clearly how when these stages of enlightenment are achieved one by one, how this mind completely transformed. Even though you live with those people, you don't see that same attachment. You help them with compassion. You treat them well. You do your responsibility for them. But you don't have that unnecessary attachment. You can see how she explains about it. Mahāsuññatasutta. Yeah. Yeah, I will show you how to go there. So this is how you find a sutta. So what should you write? name.readingfaithfully.org. You first type, you Google name.readingfaithfully.org. And you get this this page here. And you get this search box and you type Nanda Mata. This one, right? Yeah, this is the sutta. See Nandamata? You click and you get the sutta. Nanda's mother. She's a very powerful lady. She attained the third stage of enlightenment, Anagami. Completely different life. Okay. For example, Buddha had limitless compassion, limitless love for his family, Buddha's family, and to all the monks and nuns, and to all the devas, all the humans, right? Buddha had that limitless compassion, but without attachment. That's the beauty of it. When you don't have attachment, then comes the true love, true compassion. Otherwise, there will be defilements associated with your kindness or whatever, or you will expect something in return after you show kindness to somebody. It is defiled by those unnecessary things. So Buddha clearly mentions here the danger of attachment. One powerful reflection taught by the Buddha to avoid that kind of attachment when we are with our loved ones, Buddha teaches there is this reflection that should be reflected upon frequently by a monk, a nun, a male lay follower, a female lay follower. That means man or a woman. That means anybody, right? What is this reflection? One should think frequently, wisely. I have to be separated from desirable things and loved ones. So you are with those things, right? You are using your money. You are using your car. You are wearing your clothes. You are using your all the happy things you have gathered around you, and you are laughing at your friends, family members. But at the same time, inside your mind, this wise reflection is working. What is the reflection? I have to separate it from these things. I have to separate it from my money, from my wealth. I have to separate it from my vehicle. I have to separate it from my ornaments. I have to be separated from my house. I have to be separated from my husband, wife, kids, grandkids, or whatever. You have the reflection, and that becomes a powerful reminder for you to reduce your pain.
Is it like manifesting those things to happen faster?
No, nothing to do with happening. They will happen by themselves, according to the nature of law. But you are getting closer to truth. That's the only thing going to happen. Because we don't reflect the truth of life, in that case, you can say we manifest the delusion. Because we create a world thinking that we are going to live forever with our loved ones. Even though you don't think like that deliberately, the delusion is growing inside. I'm going to live with them forever. I'm going to use these things forever. That you can call manifestation, but this is getting closer to truth. There is no danger, no harm of this. But the events would happen by themselves. You are not involved in the happening part. They just follow the natural way. But this gives so much meaning to the life. It secures inner peace. Not only your inner peace, but also it helps for other people as well, because they can see how you face the life without attachment. Otherwise, when others see you crying, then they also start crying. When others see you face ups and downs of life with a very confident mind, with a very balanced mind, with an insightful mind, then the people who are crying will want to stop crying and ask your guidance. That's how things work. That's why your understanding of life, your insight, not only helps your peace, it also helps others' peace. So Buddha continued. When Buddha experiences this pleasure of renunciation, pleasure of seclusion, pleasure of peace, pleasure of awakening, when Buddha wants without the trouble or difficulty, Buddha experiences it. And then sometimes when Buddha wakes up to this meditation and remain in emptiness internally by not focusing on any signs, that means it's related to vipassana, understanding impermanent nature of things, non-self nature of things. And then Buddha comes out of that meditation, and then many monks, nuns, lay followers, female lay followers, male lay followers, kings, ministers, people from different religions, different sects, they have come to see the Buddha. And Buddha teaches. Buddha still goes and meet with them, discusses things with them, but still Buddha's mind is slanting, sloping, and inclining to seclusion, withdrawn and loving renunciation. And when Buddha say things to those people, still this topic of renunciation, topic of inner peace, seclusion, these kind of topics are used by the Buddha, not those ordinary talks are discussed. Ordinary topics are not discussed in that conversation. Buddha then said, therefore, if a follower might wish, may I enter and remain in emptiness internally? So they should still settle, unify, and immerse their mind in samadhi internally. So now Buddha encourages monks and other disciples to practice meditation. And Buddha teaches you cannot do that when you are in that noisy environment, That's the point. And then Buddha explains how to do that. How does a follower still settle, unify, and immerse in their mind in samadhi internally? How to do that? So what is the Pali word for samadhi internally? Ajhattameva chittang santapeti sannisideti ekoding karoti samadhanti. So the mind, the practitioner makes the mind still, settle, unify, and immerse in samadhi internally. Ekodhin karoti. Samadhati. That is about meditation, practicing jhanas, unifying the mind, developing samadhi. Then Buddha teaches about the first wholesome type of happiness that any human being, God or goddess, can experience apart from that inferior happiness. So the inferior, according to Buddha's categorization, the inferior happiness is the happiness that we experience through these five senses, right? In other words, while eating, drinking, dancing, singing, listening to music, entertainment, that's the happiness highlighted in the entire world. Unfortunately, the world doesn't know. There's lots of pain associated with that pleasure. There is nobody to teach them. So then they can see this is the only happiness we have access for. But now Buddha starts teaching about the very first happiness in the spiritual path, and that surpasses all the sources of inferior happiness. And there is no danger of experiencing or searching for this happiness, as Buddha says. There's no danger whatsoever. But that inferior happiness, Buddha teaches, one should be afraid of. Why? Now you can see when people are running behind that happiness, sometimes it ends up in shooting, stabbing, killing, stealing, ends up in sexual misconduct, ends up in lots of pain, right? Giving pain to many lives. That's because of chasing after this inferior type of happiness. But if somebody dedicates to practice this, to experience this happiness, Buddha teaches there is no harm to anybody. There is no danger associated with that. And what is that happiness? Idhananda bhikkhu viviccheva kamehi vivecca akusalehi dhammehi savitakkang savicharam vivekajam piti sukham patamajjanam upasampajja viharati. That's the happiness comes through the meditation. That's why some people like meditation. Because it gives this happiness of renunciation, happiness of inner peace, happiness of seclusion, happiness of satisfactoriness, happiness of understanding the true nature of life, happiness of awakening. So this happiness comes by practicing the first jhana, which is described here by the Buddha. The first jhana is quite secluded from sensual pleasures. That means the pleasures come through those five senses. This happiness is secluded from unwholesome qualities. There is no any sense desires, anger, restlessness, remorse, doubt, regret. There is no those kind of unwholesome qualities in this jhana, first jhana. And the meditator experiences the seclusion, the happiness born of seclusion, vivekajam piti sukham, right? Rapture and joy born of seclusion. See, there is this beautiful rapture and joy there. and the meditator enters and remains in the first absorption, means first jhana. So this is what is practiced basically during meditation. When your mind is focused on the meditation object, you are not thinking about a negative thought. You're not thinking about an unwholesome thought. So unwholesome thoughts means thoughts about sense desires, greediness, anger, hating others, thoughts of cruelty, killing others, destroying others. So these are the unwholesome thoughts. But during meditation, if you select these meditation objects mentioned in the Dhamma, they are always wholesome objects, beautiful wholesome objects. Objects such as breathing, loving kindness, right? Qualities of the Buddha, the compassion, object of compassion, object of appreciative joy, vipassana, right? So these kind of beautiful objects. When these wholesome objects are cultivated in the mind, Buddha teaches, your mind is focused on that and you experience this spiritual rapture and joy. And that becomes a path factor of enlightenment. And this rapture and joy in the first jhana lead you to attaining stages of enlightenment. And that becomes the seventh and eighth factor of Noble Eightfold Path, the path leading to the end of suffering. So, like that Buddha explains about the second jhana, right? And the third jhana, fourth jhana. And this is how Buddha teaches a practitioner still settles, unifies, and concentrates or immerses his or her mind in samadhi internally. That is how to do that. That is how to attain that inner peace. So, now Buddha wanted to encourage, right, people to have experienced that advanced kind of happiness. So don't think that in this world there is only one source of happiness.
Bante, I know, yeah, so human beings, everybody is always being considered a social animal. So in fact, in some cultures really encourage that we have to be in groups, in companies, and then that would enhance further, especially in workplace. So it's difficult. I understand, Bante, social animals. Now, my question, Bante, is how about we talk about parents, we talk about spouses, the love. Now, many people, well, I believe this is, I'm not so sure if it's still considered in pure happiness, but then for us to show love or to show our respect to parents, many people would celebrate anniversaries or let's say 90th birthday of parents. So they always do this kind of gatherings and in order to bond, okay, to show the love. So does it mean that this kind on the contrary is not leading to let's say seclusion or finding the true happiness, because the more we do all of these anniversaries, the bond strengthens, and also Bante taking pictures and videos and reviewing again and again, so that would harm the bonding, right? I mean, that strengthens the bonding but it harms the seclusion. May Bante share something?
Oh, I know many people who suffer a lot because they have collected lots of photos and they have run out of space, storage, right? Storage. Sometimes they lose the phone. So then that source of happiness turns into a source of pain. So that's for sure. That bond. Anyway, so no, there are some kind of wholesome gatherings, you know. Even in the community of monks, we have gatherings like we have every 14 days, right? 2 times a month we have gatherings. The monks gathering to recite the Patimokkha, the monks' training rules. All the 227 training rules are being recited, right, in those gatherings, and those gatherings leads to good karma and wholesomeness. In the same way, Buddha appreciates going to see your parents, you know, and showing gratitude to your parents, and helping your family members. Remember Mahāsuññatasutta, from the Mangala Sutta. It's Buddha teaches it's a great blessing to take care of your parents, to be grateful to your parents, to treat them well, to look after them when they are sick. Mahāsuññatasutta etam mangalamuttamam. It is a great blessing for children's life. And then Buddha teaches Putta Dharassa Sanghaho. When you assist your family members, your husband, your wife, your kids, it becomes a great blessing for your life. So there are those kind of you can say wholesome assemblies. So in that case, you don't drink alcohol, you don't take drugs, you don't share those things with others. So definitely, then that's going to be an unwholesome, unhealthy assembly, right? And that happens to many families. And then people start fighting, yelling at each other. So where is that wholesomeness then, right? So you need to understand the difference between an wholesome gathering, wholesome assembly, and an unhealthy one, right? So yeah, those kind of assemblies have, and those kind of assistance given to your loved ones is highly appreciated by the Buddha, and you also make powerful good karma.
So, Bante, those anniversaries are okay. Celebrating big anniversaries.
It's not the anniversary itself. It's the way you do it. It's the way you do it. For example, in some people's anniversary days, like wedding anniversary, and also in different anniversaries, people decide to go to the temple, go to the monastery. They spend the time meditating, spend the time chanting near the stupa, and they reserve a dana day, meal offering for the Mahāsangha. See that? So it's not the anniversary, the problem. It's the way the things you do.
Thank you, Bante. It's how. It's how. Thank you, Bante.
Yeah. Even today, there was a group. They came here to share merit with one of their departed friends. So that was a beautiful gathering, showing gratitude, doing the right thing for your departed relatives or friends. And that was quite a group, a gathering, but it was for a wholesome purpose, and nobody used alcohol, nobody take drugs, everybody kept 5 precepts, observed the precepts, listened to the Dhamma, offered the meal, the dana to the Mahāsangha, and share the merit with friends, and share the rest of the food with the friends, and lived peacefully. So those are wholesome outcome, right? But taking pictures, I don't know. You have to be careful about your memory and data and all these things. And also it's another important thing. when we go to some people's houses, we can see, like, as you mentioned, pictures everywhere, right? Oh, sometimes we get scared. How are they going to leave? So many. But yeah, but my teacher has discouraged his students even to have their teacher's photo. My teacher doesn't want others to have even his photo, even a tiny photo. So I don't have one. So many, like, yeah, monks get that advice seriously. And also, we don't have our parents, family members photos with us. So it's a different life. So we like it. And we don't have those kind of photos inside the monastery. We only have the Buddha's pictures, life story also. So we don't have our teacher's photo. You don't have our other monks' photos. Did you notice that?
Right now, Bante mentioned, I just think about that.
Yeah.
I just realized.
So it's a difference, but for good reasons. Now don't go home and remove all the photos. Then others will come here to Asapu complaining and yelling at monks. Okay, but it's important to understand, right? It's not necessarily the problem of a picture or an external object that might have some kind of impact, but let's say somebody doesn't have any picture, any photo, anybody, but still there can be so many desires and attachment inside the mind. So it depends, it depends.
One day I will see my father at this. He always talks about aging, and I think he was scared of aging. He was scared.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, on one side, so I don't call him aging when people think.
Yeah, so there is some impact. But there's no wrong trying to get closer to the Buddha's time and Buddha's life and those disciples' lives. There's no wrong trying to get closer to that. Even to some extent, you cannot get closer to their lives entirely. I mean, you can think. Buddha never celebrated birthdays. Enlightened monks and nuns never celebrated birthdays. No, any birthday parties.
What about Vesak?
Vesak now people celebrate,
Not
not the Buddha. The Vesak started even after the passing away of the Buddha. So there wasn't any Vesak celebrations when the Buddha was alive. Okay, and no birthday parties, nothing. And there were no pictures. There were no cameras. There were no pictures. There were no cell phones. So what is wrong with it? Did that do something wrong to their lives? No, they lived happily. They lived peacefully. And even those ordinary people lived in that time. They didn't have anything what we have here, like those kind of new technologies, things, right? But were they did they have miserable lives? Oh, they were like us. So if anybody thinks, okay, I want to go to that ancient time and I want to live like how the Buddha lived, how the Arahants lived, how those liberated beings who experienced lasting happiness, how they lived. I want to get closer to their lives. So somebody might think like that, and somebody will think, okay, I don't want to take any pictures. No, I don't want to save anything because they didn't do that. Somebody will do that. We cannot say anything, right?